I'm going to do some more of this baloney, these lying liars and their lies. And I went over the last one, I rewatched it and realized that my outrage wasn't strong enough about what they're doing. And what's disappointing is that nobody really cares about any of this but me. And everybody else is like, Trimet is great. Everything is great. Everybody loves Trimet. You have Dan out there with his cheerleading skills and the entire Trimet marketing team and all these bureaucrats. Nobody challenging. Mainstream media is always on their side. And this is symptomatic of our society killing the poorest people in the society. You know, I wouldn't, I can't tolerate a fare increase, period. But if they exempted the low income people, maybe I could tolerate some of it. Like, we're not going to raise the fares for the low income people. But they are going to raise the fares. And there's no reason for that. And I'm going to show you right here. This operating revenue after the increase is only 6%. Okay? It doesn't amount to a hill of beans. That's after the fare increase is 50. The fare increase is like 50 million. I mean, the fare for last year was 50 million. If you add 12%, it comes out to 56 million. Okay, so it's $5 million they're going to raise as a result of that, which is chump change. Let me show you this so you can see it clearer. Look at this pie chart. Now here's the other reason why there's no such thing as a fiscal cliff for Trimet. See this big blue circle here? This is payroll tax. And that's fixed for life. That's going to come in if there was zero ridership. This comes in 515 million, which is more. That figure is more than the operating of the system. Okay, this figure is more than what their budget figure is for the total operations. And don't forget, they stick the debt service, which is a criminal bankster siphoning of more money than what they actually loan them. I mean, they get the interest, which is how the banksters operate. But so this big part of this pie right here is assured. But this little tiny red thing here is the revenue. Now, the federal operating grants are way more than that. I'm not sure what this is. Light rail funds? What does that mean? That's separate from passenger revenue. And then you look at this. Take a look at this, okay? See this? Operations, 458 million. Okay, that's less than this. 515 million. This is the payroll tax, this big chunk. This is the operations, 458 million. So there's no need to raise the fares. You can lower the fares. But they're holding back on all this money. They're holding back 50 million. I think it was more than that. It was 500 million. It shows here contingency and other operating. Now, why is the administrative cost so high? This is supposed to be, as a general rule, 10% of this, of operations. But it's way over 10% of operations. It's 50% of the cost. This is your bureaucracy that's grown out of control right here. Don't forget, nothing got cut at Trimet except your service. Everything else was funded at greater. I went over this in a previous video. I showed you all the budgets went up during the so-called scamdemic. Now, you can't mess with the post-employment benefits. That's part of the deal. The debt service is criminal. 65 million, which is more than the passenger revenue. So they're paying more in debt service than the passenger revenue brings in. And this capital improvement program, this is the crony fund. That's almost as much as the operations. This shouldn't be as much as that. So their budget 1.19 million and their operations are 458 million. That leaves 1.5 billion unaccounted for. So they're lying. It's all clear as day. If you just look at the stuff, it's all of this they're doing here is an attempt to confuse people into thinking there's an emergency. And it will work because nobody will call them out except somebody like me, and nobody cares about me. Oh, and we already know the real reason they're doing this. They should just tell us. Instead of all this bullshit, just say we're doing this because the criminal banks who are already reaping in debt service of 65 million, most of that's probably interest, wants us to raise fare. And they said it right here.
Impacts of Trimet's revenue sources is in our ability to issue bonds. And as you know, Trimet currently maintains a AAA bond rating. Those bond rating agencies look very closely at our fare box revenue. I have had 2 meetings in the last month with our rating agencies, and one of the elements that they are looking at very closely now, so you can say that we're on watch for this one element, is the level of our fare box recovery.
And that's the real reason why they're raising your fare. So all of this production they're doing here is a lie. It's a lie.
Everyone for the being tardy, and I think we are looking forward to having Mr. Gardner, and I don't know if you want Jake at this next session or, okay. So welcome back. Now we're going to go into the part of the program where John Gardner will be going over mitigations to fare increases and just mitigations to fare in general. Welcome back.
Thank you again, President Simmons and members of the board. So yeah, now is the more fun part of the conversation where we get to talk about, based on the findings, what types of...
He thinks it's fun. You know, they're hurting people. They're like, hey, look, Lazi's smiling. They have no concept that they're actually going to be hurting hundreds and thousands of people with this. They don't even, it doesn't compute. This is how our entire society is running right now. This is a little miniature picture of our society. How these elites are going to damage the economic well-being of the people least able to afford it. And they're laughing. Look, she's laughing, he's laughing. They have no concept of what they're doing. They are disconnected sociopathic elites. It does not compute to them that they're hurting people. That's your government. This is all of government right here, folks.
The mitigations or actions can we take to sort of minimize the impacts of the fare increase where possible?
And just don't forget, this whole presentation is a lie. It's based on a lie.
So before we sort of dive into new initiatives or activities, I wanted us to get grounded in what we currently do. So I think everybody's aware of the low income or the reduced fare program. Hopefully folks understand what we're doing on the Summer Pass program, which is going into its 2nd year this year. What we've launched in the last year in partnership with CAT to provide even more free fare grants to seniors and individuals with disabilities and veterans. And what we do in our school year-round program and just so many other efforts. But I think it's helpful to maybe quantify that for you all in terms of what we've invested. Next slide.
No.
So over the last, I think, and Jake's a good watermark. So when I came to Trimet in 2015, and Jake and the team in Trimet and the previous board had instituted a series of subsidized programs. They had a grant program and a discount program of about $1.2 million a year. So over the course of the last 7 years, Trimet has invested over $30 million in subsidized new fare programs. The vast majority of that coming from the...
That's since 2015. That's 8 years. Okay? And even that doesn't add up to shit. You know, this is all smoke screen, folks. Turn it up. It's all a smoke screen.
HB 217 state planning resources, but a lot of those program elements and ideas came from CAT and TIAC. So you should feel very good in terms of what we're currently doing, especially when it comes to youth and individuals with disabilities. I mean, this year we are estimating to be able to provide 35,000 young people with free summer passes. So if we would to do the assessment of the fair impacts, we'd have to include that, as well as our school round program and the fact that Portland Public School, essentially students travel for free on public transit. I did want to say that we do know when we did all the survey work that informed.
None of this mitigates the disaster you're going to impose on the lowest income people. Okay, none of this. This is all smokescreen. It's all lies, all smokescreen.
The Title VI analysis, we do have breakouts of how seniors or individuals with disabilities responded as well as youth. So we do have their voice, and the mitigations we're proposing are a reflection of everything we've heard over the last 4 months, even some of the 3,000 verbatim responses people sent to us directly. But again, in terms of what we've been doing in terms of investing to buy down and subsidize the cost of fare, as you can see at a glance, it's fairly immense. And we're very proud of this, and this is all planned to continue. Next slide.
John?
Yes.
Something that isn't captured, obviously in that last slide is just looking at the most recent allocation of STIF funds for student seniors. And I'm aware of the low-income fare program. Just for those 2 years, it's going to be $29 million has been allocated for the low-income fare program, up from $18 million the prior 2 years.
Smokescreen, lie. Smokescreen, I showed you the charts. I showed you how much money they're sitting on. I've shown you all of the money they have. They're sitting on $500 million right now. Okay, they're just sitting on it. I showed you that in a previous video. $500 million. They're sitting on it.
So that's an example of a real commitment on the part of Trimet.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's an example of a real commitment.
If people qualify to be able to provide them that relief.
Says what's your name?
Correct, and it's not just an example of a commitment, it's a reflection of Director Way's comments that we see ridership returning, and so we expect to spend more because we believe we'll have more riders, especially young people and low-income riders.
And as I said, I don't know why I bother with these because it's so aggravating. I don't know why I bother doing this. It's just nothing but aggravation to watch these people in action here. All of them are all elites, all six-figure elites. Every one of them has no experience around poor people or being, well, Ozzy says he was poor, but he's certainly not poor now, is he? And a lot of people that become wealthy after being poor think that that's some kind of a, well, I'm better than you, and that's what seeps into people's minds.
The next 2 years.
Thank you.
Great point.
It's not a great point. It's a lie.
So when it comes to mitigation, the federal statutes are incredibly clear. We need to avoid, minimize, or mitigate the impacts of any potential disparate impacts or disproportionate burdens. So when the Trimet Board approves the proposed fare increase, our team and our community partners, both our partners in CAT and TIAC and others, will help us develop and operationalize the mitigations we're planning to move forward. Next slide. So the first premise is that we are not raising the monthly pass cost or the monthly fare caps cost. We will not raise cap cost on our citizens, youth, adults, reduced fare, any of our subsidized programs, as well as just a daily fare. We do have charts that you'll see in the Title VI program that shows how many days sooner people will actually qualify those. Essentially, it's from 13 days to 10 days. It's all it's going to take you if you're in one of those subsidized programs.
What do you mean 10 days? That's wrong, man. If you're, he's lying, man. Okay, that's not true. If you pay $1.50 a day, okay, the cost of the pass is $28.50, right? And each ride is $1.50. That's 19 days now. Last time, I think I changed. It takes 19 days, not 10 days.
Or 24 days to 20 days in the adult program. So as Jake said, there's a slight burden, but you're actually getting the benefit of that fare cap much sooner because of the fare increase.
Ozzy has a
The other thing
question.
we're not going to be doing is we're not raising fares to the federal approved level for paratransit riders. Right now, the federal government assumes we're charging paratransit Lyft riders twice our adult fare, so that would be $5. Currently, we're only charging them $2.50. So even though there's a projected fare increase for them, it will still be half of the federally standard rate.
So that's some kind of excuse. It's we could charge you more, but we're so kind, we're not going to do that. Aren't we nice people? We're sitting on millions and millions, and we're going to take this money out of the mouths of the poor.
Next slide.
Stop.
The other thing you heard, and I
Oh,
think this was
Ozzy
reflected
muted.
in sort of some of the findings of the Title VI report, was there's a ton of opportunity to expand access and
Come
registration
on, Ozzy's sitting there with his hand up. What's the matter with you, Simmons? Wake up.
participation in our reduced fare programs and essentially all of our subsidy efforts. And if we do that alone, we could potentially
Now, Gardner can't see that his hand is up, but Simmons should be able to.
reduce any of the impacts of the findings of the Title VI report. But we also think there are things we can do, like currently, when you sign up for the reduced fare program, you get 2 years of eligibility. We want to move that in alignment with Honored Citizen and make it 3 years. And we want to work to expand the HOP retail network so you can get access to fares, HOP cards, and loading fares at even more locations
Yeah, that's a disgrace. They were supposed to have like 1,000 locations. Instead, they have like 100. These are all lies. You know that, right?
across the 3-county area. So these are the high level. There's a ton of sub-strategies, and when you see the Title VI report, you'll see other ideas that aren't mitigations,
A ton of sub-strategies. A bunch of bureaucratic nonsense.
but there's steps that we think we can do to sort of increase access and reduce the
Of
impacts
course, we're
of
not going to talk about it here. You'll have to read your own package. This is just plain wrong. Okay, this is just plain evil. You can't, you can't see it any other way. I'm sorry. An agency that has the amount of overhead that you do, the amount that you spend on capital projects, the amount that you're sitting on. This is just plain evil, folks. I'm sorry. I just see it that way.
the fare increase. But we wanted to put these in front of you this morning to get your feedback and your thoughts.
Okay. Director Gonzalez.
Oh, he has a light on.
Thank you, President Simmons. On the previous slide, you made mention, John, of the no changes to caps, to any version of capping. And I heard you mention that the daily rate is not the cap to the daily rate is not changing. So I wanted to just make sure I understand.
Wait a minute. What do you mean it's not changing? Wait, the cost is higher when you can't buy a pass, from what I understand. You have to do it through buying individual daily tickets. That's what I heard anyway.
Understood that clearly for the sake of myself, fellow board members, and the public. So if I understand it correctly, in today's system, I will be capped at $5 in a day. So if I ride 2 times, I'm going to spend $5. And if I ride 3 times, I'm going to spend $5 that day. Now, if we raise the rates by 30 cents, I'm still paying $5 if I ride it twice in one day.
No, and
Is that-
no, that's sorry. And if I misspoke, my apologies, Director Gonzalez. The daily cap, the single-use fare increases and the daily cap increases, but the monthly cap doesn't increase. So if you ride 3 times or 4 times, you'll be spending $5.60 or $2.80 per day until you reach the cap, and then there's no cost to you. So the single fare ride increase would be 15 to 30 cents, and the daily would be 30 to 60 cents.
Yeah, I'm right about that. You can't buy a pass anymore. You have to earn the pass by buying individual tickets. That's really horrible. I don't like it at all.
So yes, daily caps increase, but not the monthly cap.
Yes. So if you don't ride 20 times in a month, you get ripped.
I'm looking to see if,
Verification. I wanted to make sure I understood.
okay. I'm looking to see if there are any other questions. Director Way.
Thank you, John, for this overview. I do have a question. So, again, in our current proposal, we have an increase to the youth. Sorry, there's a lot of pages here. But we have an increase to the youth. I think it was a 15-cent increase. And then, I think through the efforts that you mentioned with our partnerships with state dollars, we do have current programs that essentially help pay for young folks to take transit. So I guess I'm trying to understand, why is it again that we are still raising the youth fare?
Yeah, why are you?
If we have programs that already, minimize those costs.
I believe the short answer is to offset the loss of revenue that would prevent us from expanding service. So right now,
They're trying to connect us to expanding service, and they're just lying. It's just a lie. They're trying to say without this money we can't expand. That's just a lie. Okay, it's just a fucking lie, man. Okay, $5 million is not enough to make any noticeable change in your service, especially when you know how much money is actually coming into this place.
now we have an option for any school district to sort of buy into Trimet service as opposed to pay transportation dollars to other strategies. Portland Public is the primary user of that opportunity, so during the school year, their youth travel for free. And we also have made some great gains in East County with Park Rose. So they also decided it was a better investment for them to buy passes for their students. And then beyond that, we do use some state funds to provide transportation grants to all 17 school districts. So there's a lot of opportunity for students who are struggling to find transportation support within their school, high school, or school district. And one of the things we want to do that's a sub-strategy is really work with those partners to do a better job disseminating that.
So here they go. They say, well, you have to go to your community-based organization to get your better deal. We don't do that here at Trimet. And that's the big hole in all of this, is that they won't do it for you. They make you go through another place.
That information so parents or students can get access to the fares that are out there today. Last year, some of our high schools didn't actually spend down their grants that we've given them. So before we add more, we want to make sure we're leveraging and using what we have available.
Got it. Okay.
And I guess maybe the other thing is, as we increase service, that service cost is increased for everybody, youth, adult, any user of the system, and increasing fares just allows us to support that cost of increased service.
You're lying! Stop with the lying already. Look at this big blue thing here. $515 million payroll tax. Okay? Operations, $458 million. Payroll tax, $515 million. You got $100 million that you could expand your service. That doesn't include the money they're sitting on right now.
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna noodle on that a little bit more. There's a
lying.
lot of information that we just received, so I'm just processing. Thanks.
Director Bauman?
Thank you. On this slide, there's reference to expanding the HOP retail network. I remember when the HOP program was adopted several years ago, and at that time, the number of retail outlets that were expected to sell HOP cards was enormous. It was 500, some really large number. Has there been some retrenchment on that? We in our one of the slides when we had a presentation last week, there was something about certain stores no longer selling HOP cards. What's happening with the availability of HOP cards in those sort of smaller, neighborhood markets and so on?
A great question, Director Bauman. So
great
yes, we
question,
have
great
seen a
question.
reduction in the amount of retail providers of the HOP card. Mostly, as you've seen, businesses close, small family-owned businesses close. A lot of those are stores. There's just not the traffic for them. And so some of the things we're talking about doing is working more with community-based organizations so they can load fares, right? So that alone would add dozens, if not hundreds of locations for folks to actually load fares to their cards or get access to cards. And so Sophia Milletz is actually building another strategy to maybe invest more into retail networks, especially culturally specific retail stores, that it actually makes cost sense for them to provide it. Because what we would rather have, if they don't have a lot of traffic, is still have the ability to sell and load fares.
What a bunch
And
of
so
baloney.
we believe with a little bit more investment, we can actually
What a bunch
expand
of
the retail
baloney.
network.
Did you see the list that they have? They don't. You can't use cash on the Green Line anymore. This place is such a disgrace. Okay. Oh my God, I can't take this. Why do I expose myself to this?
That means what, creating incentives or lowering the cost for them to sell hot car.
Exactly, both and.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Director Gonzalez, and then Director Edwards.
Thank you, President Simmons. A quick question and then a comment. I'll start with the question. What is the low-income fare qualification threshold? Are we basing it on AMI? Are we following a federal line? Could you clarify that, please?
Yes, currently, if you're at 200% the federal poverty level, you are qualified for the reduced fare program. We also have other qualifiers, automatic qualifiers. If you're participating in Section 8, if you're a TANF recipient, if you're in the Oregon Health Plan, if you're receiving Medicaid or Medicare, you're you automatically are eligible, and we do self-assessment, so we're not asking you to completely document all your private information. And so we're working with a lot of the state governments, Department of Human Services, and others to sort of spread that word.
What?
And of course, I think President
You have to
Simmons
provide a whole bunch of documents to get these passes. Okay, it's not like they just believe you, because they don't.
mentioned at the last board meeting that the federal poverty rate has gone up, so even more people are now qualified. So when we talk about expanding registration and participation, we know we have to do more marketing and outreach to make sure people know that.
Yeah, more marketing, more outreach, waste more money on nothing. We have to waste money, but we're going to make you pay for it.
They now may actually qualify, which maybe 2 or 3 years ago they didn't.
And although although we talk about low-income fare, when we talk about honored citizen, there's a different qualifier, which has to do with age, right? And so, I mean, there are a number of people who get the same fare as low income, but there are different kinds of criteria.
Right, age or disability.
Right.
Sorry, Director Gonzalez, you had more?
Oh, no, thank you. Yes, just can you please translate that for us, 200% below the federal poverty line? Do you know what that translates today in annual dollars earned by an individual?
I'm going to be wrong, but I believe it is around $44,000 for a family of 4, but someone could, $50,000 for a family of 4.
Thank you. That helps a lot. So now onto a comment.
It was raised.
Going back to a question raised by Director Way around the youth passes, you said something that kind of prompted an idea in my mind. If we are essentially subsidizing the youth passes on behalf of youth, so that the youth is being paid, the youth fare is being paid by the school or by the STIF dollars or some other mechanism, but not by the youth directly. Why don't we increase the price of the youth pass so that we can utilize those dollars and draw those dollars more directly as a rider, encouraging the youth to have a youth pass that is 100% subsidized anyway?
What?
That's a good point. What I would first say is we're not actually subsidizing the cost of youth ridership. When we did the math, there's about 85,000 youth in our region. So even this summer, the subsidized summer pass program is only able to support about 35, maybe 40,000 youth. So the assumption is that those youth are the most transit dependent and most likely low income, right? So there is a focus with the resources we have. So even the resources we have through this initiative and the year round are not enough to actually support the cost of youth. But you are correct, Director Gonzalez, as prices increase, that subsidy is something that we look to get, not from that subsidy is available to sort of build towards, I guess. So, but I would say it's not a fully subsidized program, but it does, I think, put a dent into the need for transit supports for youth.
Right. Director Edwards.
Good morning again, John. My question is, what is the requirements? I think I know, but what are the requirements for an honored citizen fare?
Honored citizen is, you're eligible based on age and/or a disability. And so one of the exciting things about launching the reduced fare program in 2018, as we talk to people about the Honored Citizen program now allowing income, we actually have seen a quite a large increase in enrollment in the Honored Citizen of seniors and individuals with disability. Because it's once you're generally in that, you do not de-age, so your eligibility is always there, and you secure that discount for as long as you need it for using the program.
I guess I would like to see some kind of a breakdown of who our honored citizens are and what would be the projections going forward on that, as well as if we did an analysis of perhaps a even further reduced fare for someone that met more than one qualification of being an honored citizen.
Okay, we can definitely, before the April board meeting, show you analysis of all the demographics by subsidized program. And we can show you, which I mentioned earlier, but I think we should show you, and I think this came up, just the difference in how much we charge for paratransit versus other properties, and how deep our discounts are compared to other systems.
It just seems fair to me, if I meet more than one qualification, I should get a reduced fare even further.
Well, and I think everybody saw Kat's presentation, or Kat came to last week's board meeting, and I know that General Manager Jisoo and I are looking forward to meeting with Kat to understand some of their ideas and potentially incorporate some of those into, if not the mitigation, certainly in next year's business plan.
Because I think that once we get that information, that'll help us have more information to make a decision. I think
You're going to make a decision, huh? Yeah. Yeah, pretend. Have a nice... We're enjoying your little clown show here. Gardner's getting paid like $250,000 a year to participate in the clown show.
be very helpful.
I appreciate the direction.
One of the things that I'll point out to the full board that may not be aware of is that within state statute, it actually defines that the fare for individuals, seniors and others needs to be 50% of whatever. And so, I didn't realize it was actually written into statute, because at one point some of us were talking about, just because of age, does that mean that that you don't have the resources to pay for fare? But yet we don't have the option, because it's in state statute, that it has to be a reduced fare. Interesting when you read the law.
That's not, it's federal law, you dimwit. It's not state law, you stupid. That's it.
Other questions?
I've got my Klaus Schwab outfit on.
Dr. Baumann, do you have another question?
Yes, I do have another question. I want to pick up on the honored citizen fare and ask you a question directly about the LIFT or the paratransit program. I'm familiar with the honored citizen program insofar as people with disabilities qualifying for the half-price fare. I'm not as familiar with how riders are charged for Lyft services, and it seems that in recent months, we had some testimony suggesting that there's not a break, basically, if you're an honored citizen and you ride Lyft. Is that right? I would assume that a lot of the riders of the Lyft program are honored citizens. Do they?
They're all handicapped. They can't ride regular transit. That's why Lyft exists.
Pay the half-price fare on Lyft?
That's a great question, Director Baumann, and I think that goes back to what I was, the second sort of mitigation.
That's a great question. You're all so brilliant. I love you.
Is that the federal government generally assumes transit providers are charging twice the adult fare for paratransit rides. So in our region, that would be $5 per ride.
Oh, is that
what previous boards have instituted is actually we would charge less. That's not a statute. That's an organizational decision recognizing that individuals that require paratransit transportation.
You're wrong, Simmons. He just told you you're wrong, Simmons. Did you hear that, Simmons? You're wrong.
Probably are in a different position of payment. So we are actually providing a 50% discount to the assumed cost of transportation. So it should be $5 per ride. We're charging $2.50 per ride. So they are getting a benefit to that. And even in the proposed fare increase, they would still be getting that 50% benefit off the cost of sort of the federal assumed rate. But we will show you those tables in terms of how we compare with other paratransit services and properties before the next meeting.
Yeah, I think.
Okay,
that'd be
thank you. But can I just clarify? So I'm an honored citizen. I have an honored citizen pass. I'm riding on Lyft. I pay currently $2.50. I don't
You
pay the
do?
$1.25.
She
Is that
doesn't ride
fair to
Lyft.
say?
That's correct. You would only pay the $1.25 if you use fixed route services.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Director Edwards and then Director Lewis.
I just want to point out too that Lyft is point to point, and that's wonderful, but there's some other issues that are involved with that.
Yeah, like they're unreliable and they're shitty and it's run by a terrible place that you contracted with.
I don't want to discuss here and now, but issues that make that not the same as when you're riding on a fixed route bus or on the high-speed transit as well.
Director Lewis?
Thank you. Director, for John, when you prepare the data that Director Edwards had mentioned on the demographics, will that include, for the reduced fares compared to total riders, and then will it be in the different demographics such as our area?
You mean within the district?
Can you elaborate more on those numbers again? Because you were going to show the reduced fares, but in relation to total riders of that area. I don't know if it's broken down, but that would be good to see.
I don't think we have information on where our riders reside, do we?
We have some,
right.
yeah, we have some
That's
demographics.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
We will
always
provide you the
been.
demographics we have. We do have stronger demographics for anyone who registers their HOP card and then answers those questions. And so we do know, for example, the reduced fare program is more diverse than our general ridership. So we can definitely provide you what we've collected,
Okay.
Dr. Lewis.
But it'll
No, I can't take any more of this. It's too much of it as it is. Over and out.